While you were busy watching the hoax impeachment, Congress decided to come together and pass an epic screw job against the American people. Both parties, Republicans and Democrats, came together to pass this under the radar. Now, before I get into the report, just a quick break. If you get to visit any of America's great tourist areas, it seems like everything is going good. I mean, if you go over to Las Vegas, you can see their gambling and casinos up and running. Or if you go over to Broadway, they have their restaurants and their theater shows and their major performances. Or maybe even they're in Chicago checking out some of the local bars and areas there. Well, the truth is, while it seems on the surface as if everything is fine, that just might not be the case. In fact, on a little bit of a closer observation, things aren't what they seem at all. Take, for example, the number of homeless people who are now on the streets, not only in California, but multiple cities all across the country. I mean, this is exactly what happened in 2008, when regular folks, people who had jobs, no longer had jobs. They were kicked out of their homes, operations, places of business, and left on the street to fend for themselves. The same thing is happening right now in 2019. We have car loans at an all-time high. We have credit cards being maxed out and the prices of homes skyrocketing. But just like last time, they try to cover it all up by a wobbled stock market and overvaluation. Trust me, you're not going to want to be there when it all comes crashing down. Right now is the time to start investing in gold, silver, and precious metals. And you can do that at noblegoldinvestments.com. Right now, I want to encourage you, you can convert your 401ks or start investing in gold and silver and precious metals, because if you wait to tomorrow, you can become a victim. So give Noble Gold Investment Specialist a chance to talk to you. Call them at 1-877-646-5347 and figure out with them how they can protect you and your family from a crisis. All right, back to the broadcast. With every eye focused on this sham hoax of an impeachment against the President of the United States of America, Congress, both Republican and Democrats, decided to go underneath the radar and slip a $1.4 trillion spending bill underneath the eyes of the American people. What's worse is what they slipped inside of this spending bill. Take a listen to what Tucker Carlson had to say.
Before it leaves town for Christmas, the Congress will pass a 2,000-page spending bill that Dana just referred to. It amounts to about $1.4 trillion. What's in that bill? Wouldn't you like to know? You were too busy watching impeachment to find out. We took a little time and checked. Here's a selection. For example, thousands of Liberians from Liberia living in this country will get a special pathway to citizenship. Why? How'd that happen? Don't ask. It was never debated. You had no idea it was even happening. This is your country. You didn't know. And of course, that was the point.
Basically, your congressmen and women just gave amnesty to Liberians, and they did it without your knowledge, and they did it without your approval, and they did it, again, under the radar. But that's not the only provision they slipped in. Take a listen.
In fact, in this new spending bill, Congress just voted to keep the money flowing unimpeded to that failed war. $4 billion will go to the Afghan security forces. Really? It's like a joke. We know for dead certain that money will be wasted the second it gets there. The troops we hire will desert. Their weapons will wind up with the Taliban. If anything, the money that we send is more likely to be spent killing American forces than it is to be turning Afghanistan into Belgium or whatever the mission is.
Yes, you heard him correctly. They are sending $4 billion to the failed Afghan war, in which we know that ultimately the weapons and the funding end up in the hands of the Taliban. To make matters worse, they even slipped in a little provision here in the U.S. that stands in stark opposition to our Second Amendment right. Take a listen.
The spending bill currently includes $25 million to spend on, quote, gun violence research. And don't lie to yourself. That's not social science. It's money that will go to ideologically motivated research with only one purpose: giving a pretext to bureaucrats to reduce your Second Amendment rights.
I believe that's the worst part of this provision. $25 million going towards gun violence. As Tucker Carlson said, and I agree, this is not going to any kind of gun violence. It's going to attack our Second Amendment right. In fact, take what's happening right now in Virginia. And if you've not signed up on Restricted Republic, I've got a whole video there on Virginia. But in Virginia right now, the Democrats are attempting to take guns away from the citizens there in the state of Virginia. 95 counties have now signed up in stark opposition and said, the sheriffs in our communities and our counties, we will not comply to your gun confiscation laws. And that 95 counties is actually growing. In fact, the Democrats are even talking about and floating the idea, if you will, of sending in the National Guard. Take a look at this article on WashingtonExaminer.com. The law is the law. Virginia Democrats float prosecution and National Guard deployment if police don't enforce gun control. This gun control, or should I say gun confiscation provision, is planned to commence and all go forward sometime in January. You see, the Democrats don't care about the American people, but the good news is the state of Virginia is standing up, and there is even the building up of the militia right now there in Virginia. You see, this $25 million piece of gun violence legislation that they decided to slip into this $1.4 trillion spending bill, I believe that money could be used by Democrats and even some Republicans across the country, in which they use to push more gun confiscation laws, just like we're seeing in Virginia. Is there any other reason why they would have to slip this under the radar and behind closed doors, basically, while everybody else is focused on the impeachment? They did whatever the heck they wanted behind closed doors, and the American people need to know about it. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. I'd love to get your thoughts, comments, and concerns. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.